long as it doesn't hit the video, if I actually sit down, because it's a setting behind a man seated behind a desk. Now I'm going to ask you to use your imaginations, and I'll give you a bit of context, and then I'll get straight in. You and afterwards, Alan, please. Right. And
Definitive thoughts.
And I want you to imagine a desk in routine office and Chief Constable facing a pile of papers. Have we got all that pictured in the mind?
Yeah.
He's tired, he's worn, he's had a hell of a weekend. I won't go into the details. But what's happened is that two local criminal chiefs called the King brothers, or twins, have recently perished in a car crash. And they've he's uncovered a web of corruption. And it's an extract from my larger work, a novel I'm writing, but this section for now has the working title called Routine Police Work. Oh, shocking, 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 the Chief Constable thought as he worked through a preliminary report on the discoveries made in the King brothers' mansion. Oh, what a web of corruption. This is going to require a substantial amount of support. Our limited resources to track even some of this aren't there. The fraud squad will have to be called in. The Serious Crime Investigation Department too. A number of forces will have to be involved. Also, details of their dossiers have mysteriously started to appear in Spain. Seems that the King brothers are determined to take down as many of our dear elected officials as possible. Typical of these sort of people. I took up a blue and white striped cup of tea and began to drink, or rather slurp. The Chief Constable was a trim, white-haired man with a pale, careworn face with worry lines on his forehead. Within his lights he was honest and dominated by a genuine sense of fair play. He was a well-respected figure who, on the grounds of a conflict of interest, had politely turned down repeated invitations to join the exotic, ancient and distinguished order of grand architects, with its strange rituals and its obligation for members to wear a bright red sock on the left leg and an equally bright blue one on the other. What was that? It was about goodness only knows. But this highly secretive society had provided a convenient cover for the King brothers to entrap senior male figures in the community. These included most of the Conservative Association, that's to be inspected, 2 Labour councillors, 1 Liberal Democrat, 1 member of the monster raving Looney Party who acted as master of ceremonies, which earned him the coveted honour of wearing a bright orange and bright green sock at the meetings. They were just the political figures. There were also senior figures from the world of business, media and entertainment, with a stand-up comedian acting as honorary president. He had the highly coveted privilege of wearing a bright purple sock, symbolising royalty, and a bright blue sock, symbolising heaven. Most disturbing of all was the senior policeman who had been ensnared. The previous Chief Constable had been awarded the coveted honour of the golden sock and the silver sock, apparently due to his services in squashing any investigations into this distinguished society, whilst his successor had been awarded similarly. Both men were now deceased, one in a mysterious car accident whose brakes had been tampered with by human hands, and the other had been found equally mysterious head in the river after his taking his dog for a walk. The dog was never found. The present Chief Constable was never convinced by the explanation that he'd slipped on some stepping stones. For instance, where were they? A banker was also found dead in mysterious circumstances, hanging in some remote barn. All these plus a couple of deaths would be investigated. There was also the senior ranking officers who had won various coloured socks for their services. They were still active, and they needed to be considered. Should they be subject to investigation, which would be messy, or quietly retired, in which case the things might be found out by the media. Yeah, the deep throat had provided him with the convenient information with which to make decisions. Whoever Deep Throat was, they seem to have been intimate with at least one of the King brothers. Maybe someone was is aiming for a lighter sentence. That's been known before. As he sipped or slurped his tea, the chief constable speculated that Old Man King, who was reputed to be close to communal gangs, had set up this society. But whatever the purpose, it had been a centre of corruption. He slurped more tea and sighed. Police work was all about finding possible connections, and if facts couldn't be established, then instinct would have to do instead. He looked at his large in-tray and decided to take the files from the bottom of it, where the more trivial stuff were often buried. There were the inevitable complaints about the parting of police cars on the local march. Wherever they were positioned, it was never the right one for some aggrieved citizen or group. This time there have been several complaints. This was none of which was straightforward to take up. So he took up a red pen and scribbled and replied, saying, "File and forget." The second complaint concerned authorising new cleaning fluid to remove the pigeon droppings that would drop on policemen's helmets. He was troubled. Should he order the expensive fluid, which would be effective, but the inward or the cheaper fluid, which would be less effective, but would please the commissioner because it was cutting costs? He looked at the options and decided that as his force did not like the idea of having pigeon drops lying on their helmets, he scribbled "authorised." These papers could at least be placed in the out tray, unlike the others which would have to be scanned in depth. Once he'd finished these papers, he decided to make himself another cup of tea. Oh, the joys of routine police work, he reflected, at the forbidding piles of papers in front of him. You never know what could sock into you. Oh.